A forced smile as I'm introduced as just the nanny for the 1,000th time. The Blackwell mansion had been my workplace for 2 years, caring for little Sophie, age 7, while her mother Elaine and my sister-in-law Rebecca conducted their privileged social lives. That day started like any other until I received an email confirming the acquisition. The shares I had silently purchased over years had finally paid off. I was now the new chairwoman of the board at Blackwell Industries, the same company where my brother-in-law Mark held a mid-level position and which financed Rebecca's extravagant lifestyle. "Claire, could you load the dishes in the machine before you go? Oh, and Sophie needs someone to take her to ballet class tomorrow." Rebecca didn't even look at me as she spoke, fingers sliding across her latest smartphone. Little did she know that in 24 hours, I would be sitting at the head of the boardroom table of her precious family company. What happens when the one everyone considers just a domestic worker suddenly becomes the most powerful person in the room? Well, I was about to find out. I never planned on being just the nanny. With my MBA from Cornell and 5 years in corporate acquisitions, I was on a promising career trajectory. But when my brother Ryan died suddenly 3 years ago, something shifted in me. His daughter Sophie needed stability, and my sister-in-law Elaine was overwhelmed running their household. So I stepped in, initially just to help during the transition. Somehow, temporary assistance morphed into a full-time position. The Blackwells weren't just wealthy, they were old money wealthy, with that particular East Coast superiority that comes from generations of privilege. Rebecca married into this world when she wed Mark Blackwell, Elaine's brother. From day one, Rebecca made it clear she considered me a downgrade from my former self. "Such a shame about your career, Claire," she'd say at family gatherings, voice dripping with faux sympathy. "But I suppose someone needs to do the essential work." Last Thanksgiving exemplified the dynamic perfectly. I'd spend hours helping prepare the meal while Rebecca paraded around in designer clothes, directing the household staff. When I joined the table, still wearing an apron, Rebecca loudly asked if I wouldn't be more comfortable eating in the kitchen with the other help. Sophie had piped up, "But Auntie Claire isn't help, she's family." The awkward silence that followed spoke volumes. What no one knew was that for the past 2 years, I'd been systematically buying Blackwell Industries stock. The company was undervalued, and I recognized its potential early. I'd invested my entire inheritance from Ryan along with my savings. My downtime during Sophie's naps wasn't spent watching Netflix as everyone assumed. I was analyzing market trends and company reports. The breaking point came during Sophie's birthday party last month. Rebecca had cornered me by the kitchen, martini in hand. "You know, Claire," she whispered, "Sophie is getting older now. She'll be in school full-time soon. What exactly will you do then? It's not like you can just jump back into your old career after playing house for so long." Her smirk said everything her words didn't. That night, I made the call to my broker to initiate the final phase of my acquisition plan. The Blackwell family owned significant shares, but the company had gone public years ago, and through careful, anonymous purchasing through various holdings, I was positioned to become the majority shareholder. The final shares were purchased yesterday, and this morning the board confirmed my position as chairwoman. Tomorrow, Blackwell Industries is having an executive retreat at the family estate, where I currently live as the help. Only Mark and Rebecca don't know I'll be attending in a very different capacity than they expect. The day of the Blackwell Industries executive retreat arrived with perfect autumn weather. The estate's gardens were immaculate, white tents erected on the sprawling lawn. Staff bustled around setting up refreshments and presentation equipment. I watched from Sophie's bedroom window as I helped her with homework, my heart racing with anticipation. "Auntie Claire, Why do you look so nervous? Sophie asked, her intuition sharp as always. Just a busy day ahead, I smiled, straightening her math worksheets. Remember, you're having lunch with your mom and the executive's children today. Best behavior, okay? Rebecca burst into the room without knocking, already dressed in a tailored Chanel suit. Claire, I need you to make yourself scarce today. The company's top executives will be here, and frankly, it's embarrassing enough that our nanny lives with us. She surveyed my casual outfit with disdain. At least dress properly if you must be seen. These people are important. I nodded silently, thinking of the Alexander McQueen suit hanging in my closet, delivered discreetly yesterday. Of course, Rebecca, I wouldn't want to embarrass you. And make sure Sophie behaves during lunch. Last time she mentioned how you help her with advanced math. It made Elaine look like she's outsourcing parenting to the help. Rebecca checked her reflection in Sophie's mirror. Mark says the new chairperson is visiting today. Some corporate shark who bought up shares. Everyone's on edge. How interesting, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Any idea who it might be? Some Wall Street type, I'm sure. Mark's worried about his position. She finally looked at me. Not that you'd understand corporate politics. By noon, executives began arriving in luxury vehicles. I watched from upstairs as Rebecca and Elaine greeted them, all perfect smiles and handshakes. Mark looked particularly nervous, tugging at his tie repeatedly. I slipped into my room to prepare. The transformation wasn't just the McQueen suit or the professional makeup. It was shedding the accommodating posture I'd adopted for 2 years. Standing straight, shoulders back, I looked in the mirror and saw the executive I'd once been. No, the executive I now was, with considerably more power. At 12:45, 15 minutes before the official welcome lunch, I received a text from my assistant. Car waiting at the side entrance as requested. Perfect timing. I made my way downstairs, documents in a leather portfolio. In the kitchen, I found Sophie having a pre-lunch cookie with the chef. "Wow, Auntie Claire, you look like a boss lady," she exclaimed. "Thank you, sweetheart," I smiled, bending to her level. "I have a little secret. I am a boss lady today." Her eyes widened. "Are you playing dress up?" "Not exactly, but I need you to act surprised later, okay? It's a grown-up surprise." I walked through the kitchen side door where a black Tesla waited. My plan was to exit the property, circle around, and return through the main entrance with the other executives. As I climbed into the car, I heard Rebecca's voice from the patio. "The nanny is leaving, thank God. I told Mark we should have hired someone who knows their place. She has ideas above her station. Did you know she tries to talk investments with Mark sometimes, as if she understands our world?" Elaine's response was too quiet to hear, but Rebecca's laugh carried. "Exactly, like letting the gardener perform surgery." I instructed the driver to proceed, my resolve hardening. 20 minutes later, I returned through the main gate, now just another executive car in the procession. The staff directed us to the welcome area, where champagne was being served. I spotted Mark immediately, nervously chatting with board members. Rebecca stood nearby, evaluating everyone's clothing and jewelry like she was mentally calculating net worths. Neither noticed me yet. The CFO recognized me first, his glass freezing midway to his lips. "Claire? Claire Wilson?" Heads turned. Mark's face drained of color. "Hello, Thomas." I smiled at the CFO. "It's been a while." Rebecca pushed forward, confusion evident. "Claire, what are you doing here? And why are you dressed like—" The COO interrupted her, extending his hand to me. "Ms. Wilson, we're delighted you could join us. The board has been buzzing about your acquisition strategy. Brilliant move with the offshore holdings." Mark looked like he might faint. "Acquisition? Claire, what is he talking about?" The moment hung suspended in time. 2 years of condescension, dismissal, and thinly veiled contempt crystallized in Rebecca's widening eyes as understanding began to dawn. "Perhaps we should start lunch," I suggested smoothly, watching Rebecca's expression oscillate between confusion and horror. "I believe introductions are in order." We moved toward the elegant table set up under the tent. The COO gestured to the head of the table, the chair Rebecca had undoubtedly expected to occupy as the hostess. "Ms. Wilson, as our new chairwoman, would you like to sit here?" Rebecca's champagne glass nearly slipped from her fingers. "Chairwoman? There must be some mistake." The CFO looked puzzled. "No mistake. Ms. Wilson now holds controlling interest in Blackwell Industries following yesterday's board vote." I took my seat at the head of the table, placing my portfolio in front of me. "Thank you, Thomas. And please, call me Claire." Mark stumbled forward, his tie now completely askew. "Claire? What is this? Some kind of joke?" The executives exchanged uncomfortable glances as family drama clearly unfolded in front of them. Elaine, to her credit, seemed more intrigued than upset, taking a seat with a curious expression. "Not a joke, Mark," I replied, gesturing for everyone to sit. "I've been acquiring Blackwell stock for 2 years. The final transaction was completed yesterday. I'm now the majority shareholder and chairwoman of the board." Rebecca remained standing, her face flushed with anger. "This is absurd! You're Sophie's nanny! You fold laundry and make mac and cheese!" "And before that, I was a mergers and acquisitions specialist with an MBA from Cornell," I responded calmly. "Careers evolve." The table fell silent as servers began bringing the first course. Rebecca finally sat, 3 seats away from me, her body rigid with tension. "So all this time," she hissed, quiet enough that only those nearby could hear, "while pretending to be the help, you were plotting a takeover?" "I wasn't the help, Rebecca. I was family helping family after my brother died," I corrected. "And I wasn't plotting anything. I was making sound investments with my inheritance money. Blackwell Industries was undervalued." Mark leaned forward, his business instincts finally kicking in despite his shock. "Claire, we should discuss this privately. Family matters shouldn't be—" "This isn't a family matter, Mark. It's business," I interrupted, opening my portfolio. "Now, shall we discuss the first quarter projections? I have some concerns about the Asian market expansion strategy." The meeting proceeded with excruciating professionalism. The executives quickly adapted to the new power dynamic, addressing their comments and questions to me. Mark attempted to participate, but was clearly rattled. Rebecca sat in seething silence, picking at her food. When Sophie and the other executives' children were brought in for the promised lunch visit, the tension reached its peak. Sophie spotted me and ran over excitedly. "Auntie Claire, you look so pretty." She climbed into my lap, oblivious to the corporate setting. Rebecca stood abruptly. "Sophie, come here immediately. Claire is busy with important business matters." Sophie looked confused. "But she's my auntie." "She's the company chairwoman now, apparently," Rebecca said bitterly. "She doesn't have time to be your nanny anymore." The words hung in the air, cruel in their implication that I would abandon Sophie now that my position had changed. I felt a flash of genuine anger for the first time. "Actually," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "being Sophie's aunt is the most important job I have. My brother entrusted me with her care, and that responsibility comes before any corporate title." I turned to the executives. "Family first has always been the Blackwell Industries motto, hasn't it? That's something I intend to honor as chairwoman." The COO nodded approvingly. Several others murmured agreement. "This is ridiculous," Rebecca snapped, grabbing her purse. "Mark, we need to speak to our lawyers." Mark hesitated, looking between his wife and the table of executives clearly aligned with me. "Rebecca," I said quietly, "you might want to review your prenuptial agreement before making any hasty decisions. The Blackwell family shares are now significantly diluted in value. Your lifestyle may depend on Mark maintaining his position with the company." Her face went white as the implications sank in. Without another word, she turned and stormed out of the tent. Mark apologized awkwardly and followed her. Elaine, who had been watching everything with remarkable composure, leaned toward me. "I always wondered why someone with your credentials was content being Sophie's nanny. Now I understand you were playing a much longer game." I met her gaze steadily. "I never played games with Sophie's care. That was always genuine." She nodded slowly. "I believe you. And frankly, after watching Rebecca treat you like second-class family for years, I can't say I'm entirely disappointed by this turn of events." As lunch concluded and we moved to the presentation portion of the retreat, I excused myself briefly. In the main house, I found Mark and Rebecca in heated discussion in the library. They fell silent when I entered. "I think it's time we discussed the new family dynamics," I said, closing the door behind me. The library confrontation lasted exactly 17 minutes. I laid out the new reality in precise terms. I would continue living at the estate as both Sophie's caretaker and the company's chairwoman. Mark could keep his position, conditional upon performance reviews, the same standard every other executive would face. As for Rebecca, her days of treating household staff like disposable commodities were over. "You can't possibly think you'll still be Sophie's nanny," Rebecca scoffed, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. "It's inappropriate. The chairwoman of Blackwell Industries changing diapers and making school lunches? Sophie hasn't worn diapers in years, as you'd know if you spent more time with her," I replied evenly. "And there's nothing inappropriate about family caring for family. What's inappropriate is treating people as beneath you based on their job title." Mark, pragmatic as ever when his financial security was threatened, had already shifted into damage control mode. "Claire's right, Rebecca, and frankly, having the chairwoman living here could be advantageous for my career." The look Rebecca gave him could have frozen hell. In the days that followed, the corporate world buzzed with news of the nanny-turned-chairwoman story. Business journals praised my strategic acquisition as brilliantly executed, while gossip columns speculated wildly about the family drama. I declined all interview requests, focusing instead on steadying the company through the transition and maintaining normalcy for Sophie. Elaine surprised me by becoming an unexpected ally. Over coffee one morning, while Sophie was at school, she confessed, "I always felt guilty about how Rebecca treated you, but I didn't want to cause family friction." "Why did you let me stay on as nanny if you knew my background?" I asked, a question that had lingered. She smiled sadly. "After Ryan died, Sophie was so withdrawn. You were the only one who could reach her. I was willing to accept any arrangement that kept you in her life." She paused. "I never imagined you were building an empire in the background." "Neither did I, initially," I admitted. "It started as just smart investing. Then, after that Thanksgiving dinner when Rebecca suggested I eat in the kitchen," Elaine winced. "I remember. That was cruel, even for her." The company thrived under my leadership. I implemented flexible work policies that had been researched but shelved under previous management, resulting in improved productivity and employee retention. Mark, to his credit, rose to the challenge of proving his worth beyond his family name. His marketing initiatives showed genuine promise once freed from old constraints. Rebecca's adaptation was more complicated. For weeks, she alternated between icy silence and thinly veiled hostility. The turning point came unexpectedly during a charity gala 6 weeks after my takeover. I overheard her defending me to her socialite friends. "Claire's not just playing at being an executive," she said sharply when someone made a dismissive comment. "She built this position through strategic investment while simultaneously raising my niece after my brother-in-law died. How many of us could manage that?" Later that evening, she approached me at the bar. "Don't read too much into what I said," she warned, ordering another martini. "I still think what you did was underhanded." "It was business, Rebecca, nothing personal," she snorted. "Everything's personal in families." After a pause, she added, "Sophie adores you. That counts for something." It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement, the beginning of a new dynamic. 3 months after the takeover, I made a decision that shocked everyone. During a board meeting, I proposed establishing a family trust for Sophie that would eventually hold 30% of my shares. I appointed Elaine as co-trustee. "Sophie lost her father," I explained to the board. "This ensures she'll always have security and a connection to his family legacy." The gesture accomplished something my corporate power alone couldn't. It definitively ended the war with Rebecca. The morning after the announcement, I found a note slipped under my door. In Rebecca's elegant handwriting, it simply read, "Ryan would be proud." The most unexpected development came 6 months into my chairwomanship. An industry competitor approached with an attractive merger proposal, one that would double our market share while preserving the Blackwell name and most executive positions. After extensive due diligence, I brought it to the board for consideration. Mark cornered me after the meeting. "You know what this would mean? If the merger goes through with these terms, you'd essentially be co-CEO of one of the largest firms in the industry." "I'm aware," I replied, reviewing the projections. "Would you take it? Move to corporate headquarters? Get back into the daily executive grind?" His real question hung unspoken. "Would you leave Sophie?" I closed the folder. "I've learned something important these past years, Mark. Power isn't just about corporate titles or stock portfolios. Sometimes it's in the choice to live authentically, balancing all parts of who you are." The merger proceeded with one unconventional stipulation. My role would be structured to allow me to continue residing primarily at the estate with Sophie, with travel limited to 3 days per week. The business press called it an unprecedented executive arrangement, but to me, it was simply honoring my promise to my brother. 1 year after the fateful executive retreat, our family dynamic had transformed completely. Rebecca and I would never be best friends, but we'd developed a mutual respect. Mark had grown into his role, no longer relying solely on the family name. Elaine and I partnered effectively in raising Sophie, whose bedroom walls now featured equal numbers of corporate magazine covers featuring her aunt and her own artwork. The most telling moment came during Sophie's school career day. When asked what her Aunt Claire did for a living, she thought for a moment before answering, "She runs a big company, but she also makes the best blueberry pancakes and helps me with math homework. She says the most important job is being my aunt." In that child's assessment lay the truest measure of success I could imagine. Looking back on this journey from just the nanny to Madam Chairman, I realize now that true power isn't found in boardrooms or stock portfolios. It's in authenticity. For years, I allowed others to define me by one role, while I quietly built another. The real victory wasn't the moment Rebecca's face fell when she realized who I'd become. It was finding the courage to be fully myself in all spaces. Sophie starts middle school next month. Yesterday, she asked if I would help her with a presentation about people who inspire you. She chose me, not because I run a Fortune 500 company, but because, in her words, "You showed me you can be kind and powerful at the same time." That's the lesson I want to share with you today. Never let anyone else's perception diminish your sense of self-worth. Your value isn't determined by your job title or how others treat you. Sometimes the person they underestimate today will be the leader they answer to tomorrow. If my story resonated with you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Have you ever been underestimated or pigeonholed in your professional or personal life? Share your experience in the comments below. Remember, your journey isn't defined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.